Hello, and welcome back to my 486 project. Not a huge amount has changed recently, so this is more just of a status update to cover what has been going on. And as there's not a lot there, it's also going to be a bit of a Q&A. There's been some common questions that have popped up multiple times, a couple specific questions that have been asked, and a few things that I kind of wish I had been asked, so I'm going to answer them anyways. So let's just start with the status update. First and foremost, the boards have been ordered, so let's just talk about that. This is going to be the support board. It's nothing particularly fancy. It just has the breakouts of all the various pins, the support logic for the power and the reset, and the power connector. Very basic. This is just a straightforward thing. I'm mostly using through-hole parts except for the capacitors, the resistors, and the LEDs because, well, I have a lot of those service mount parts, so I might as well use them. Going to put a 6-pin socket on there for the power latch logic that we were talking about last episode. And we have a Schmidt trigger inverter that I'm using only one gate of, so that's actually really kind of overkill. But once again, works as you would expect. It's just a very simple, straightforward. It's meant to be kind of big and bulky so you can work with it with your hands. Now the CPU board itself, that's a lot more complicated. There's a lot of chips on this. I am ordering this with the stencil, and I am going to try to use solder paste and reflow and actually do that for making the board. Which is why I kind of allow myself to use things like the resistor networks and one TSOP chip that's super tiny you cannot see. So, right there. So, I'll go over exactly what everything on the board does when I get it, so I can cover the manufacturing and the way the logic works. But we basically, as a short breakdown, we have address control logic on this side, we have the data bus control logic on this side, plus a couple support chips. Basically, if I had a DRAM controller on here, I'd have a North bridge. So talk about reinventing the wheel, right? So the main slowdown right now is sourcing all the parts I need. Because, as I said previously, my goal is to have this running at 33 megahertz. As such, I need to make sure whatever chips I get are fast enough to support that speed. So they're going to be a little more expensive, and I've got to make sure I get the right chips. So, slow process, but I also need to buy the equipment to do the reflow. I don't have that yet either. On the other hand, I should be able to actually record that, so that should be entertaining for somebody. Maybe even me. So, that's the update. Everything after this is Q&A stuff, so if this is all you're here for, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next episode. For those of you who are staying, let's talk some of the common questions. One of the first ones I've gotten is that why would I do this project with the 486? Well, the answer is, I had a 486 laying around. That's not the only CPU I have. I do have a Z80, which I've done some work with in the past, and an actual 8086. Don't mind my cable here on the Z80. It fixes the data bus because the data pins in the Z80 are in the worst possible order you can think of. So this munged cable basically puts them in a more reasonable order. So as I said, I've done a little bit of work with the Z80, and I got the 286. If it was the 286, it'd be much more interesting. I got the 8086 after I started the 486 project, so didn't really get a chance to work with that at all. So there we are. I did the 486 because I had it. It's a very early model. Very early. I actually looked up. It's like one of the first production styles of the 486DX. So, all right. Next common question, or question I would like to be asked. Let's talk about RAM. Now, the current board has 32K of RAM, which is nowhere near enough to do much of anything. I can get that to work, but not going to help any. So my solution is going to be this. Let's see if we can actually see this. I'll raise up a little bit. So there, that seems to be in view. This is a 512K by 8 SRAM chip, so half a meg. My plan is to use, a few of these to actually put together about 4 megabytes of RAM. The plan is to actually have them arranged as a 32-bit bus. So each chip would represent 1 byte. So the 4 chips would be running in parallel. So you have 2 megabytes is separated, each 2 megabytes over 4 chips with each byte in a different chip, which is how it's intended to be done. So that one should be pretty straightforward. The only logic is going to be limiting where the RAM is, because I don't want to have it be repeating. I actually want to limit the range of the peripherals like the RAM and the ROM and all that stuff. ROM for now, probably just going to stay the 8-bit 32K chip, which is fine. I mean, lets me use the 8-bit bus. I might implement some sort of shadow RAM, as I actually have 10 of these and I only need 8. So I might put some kind of logic during boot up for it to copy, 8-bit copy from the RAM into these chips. Now, the only thing is, I don't know if these are going to be fast enough. I bought these before I decided on the speed issue. So these might not actually be workable chips. They may not be fast enough. We'll see when we get there. And the long-term plan is I do eventually want to try to implement some sort of DRAM controller, which is a lot more complicated. SRAM is straightforward. You have the address lines, the data lines, nothing special. DRAM, you have the refresh issue, which is the logic of that is not too terribly bad. Plus, you have to deal with the fact that you've split up row and address writes. So you have multiple writes to the RAM controller, or the RAM, for every write or read. A little bit of a pain. So that's more of an academic project, but I thought it'd be fun to do a DRAM controller. All right, so what else do we only get asked about? Well, one of the most common questions I've gotten, outside of ones I've already covered, has been about these little LED boards and where I got them. And the answer is I made them myself. If I grab one of the blanks, you can see the back, the back, which you barely see normally. It has my logo on it because I have a logo I put on everything. And yeah, these were inspired by watching some other tech YouTubers and the fact that LEDs are such a common thing. So I thought that would be an interesting project. And it also was a good excuse to start working with surface mount components. In fact, I think this is actually a really nice size for learning how to do that. It's a practical device, it's not very complicated, and it's not very expensive. The last batch I ordered, I just had the resistors put on to test the manufacturing part. So all you have to do is the LEDs. And the reason I did that is that the direction of the LEDs are based off of if you want it to be active high or active low. Let me just lower this in a little bit closer so I can show you a bit better what I'm talking about. So if we look at the chip, let's actually look at one of the finished ones. We have this jumper here, which is marked ground and VCC. And of course we have the actual connection, which is marked ground and VCC. And we have these 4 pads up here that are simply there so you can mark what color the LEDs are. It seemed like a reasonable thing to have. So the idea is that if you want to have this active high, you would close the jumper, and this was the active high. I put white on the active high ones. You would close the jumper between the center pin and ground, and then you would put the LEDs pointing that way, which is what the board actually says. If you can actually see that on there, it's very small detail. So yeah, you just manufacture it that way. So you make the LEDs point that way, it's active high. If on the other hand you want an active low, if you want an active high, you would do the exact opposite. You would jumper the ground to VCC and then install the LEDs pointing this way. You notice there's actually a consistent design here. So ground, 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 VCC, VCC, VCC. So there's a consistency to this design. Now, it's not perfect. For one, it only works on full-size breadboards, and it only works on ones where the power bus is lined in line with the pins of the rest of the breadboard, which most small breadboards don't have. The second thing is that it does require you to have it arranged where you have, like this, with the ground on top and power on the bottom, which makes a lot of sense because when you have a chip on this arrangement, there's shorter jumpers between the power and ground on the usual connections. So, there's a logic to that. And the downside of this, though, is that you cannot put it like this because, well, it's now connected to the wrong power lines. I mean, if you were very careful and were very sure what you were doing, you should be able to do it without shorting something out. But I feel like it's a risk that I don't want to take. Now, I did make sure that it could actually, span the middle. And since, due to this jumper, only one of the 2 power pins is ever used, so the other one is just a dead pin, you can put it like this and just connect a power connection to this pin, or this line on the board, and then just connect the LEDs on this side. But really, it's just meant to be a very quick drop on the board, and now you have some power and LEDs to work with. Now, I do have a lot of these little chips now. Like I said, last time through, I ordered a whole bunch, so I got like about 20 of them. And most of them are still sitting here unpopulated. So, I'd be willing, if anybody wants some of these, I might be willing to part with these, probably for very little, as in basically postage. I'm not sure I could ship internationally, but, if you're interested, feel free to drop me a line, and maybe I'll be able to send you some. All right, what else to talk about? Well, that covers the most common questions, I think. How about myself? I don't think I've actually talked much about myself. Let me just zoom this out so you can watch my hands. No, you'll never actually see my face on camera. I am very camera shy, and I have a bit of stage fright. It usually takes me about 3 days to get hyped up enough to actually record one of these. So there you go. I think I mentioned back in the very first video, my name is actually Fox Cutter. I'm a software developer. I've been working in the industry for 20 some odd years. I have no formal training in hardware engineering. I'm completely self-taught. And I think that shows with the quality of my work at times. I'm not the greatest at places, obviously, and my tools are somewhat lacking, like my inappropriate chip remover that I probably am never going to replace. Same thing with my software engineering. I'm self-taught. I grew up back in the day before Google, so when self-taught meant you actually had to break out the books and read a lot, and I still do that. I've been learning Go for my current job, so that's been fun. My favorite programming language is probably Forth. So, for those of you who know what it is, have fun with that. It's a fun little weird language. I quite like it. It can do quite a lot with very simple implementation. It's actually really useful on small hardware. Let's see, what else to cover? Channels. Let's talk about channel membership, because I never expected the first video to explode the way it did. I won't say it went viral, because it certainly did not. But it went way bigger than I ever expected. I truly, honestly expected that I would end up with maybe 10, 20 people watching these videos. So I am still a little overwhelmed with just how many people have subscribed, how many people are watching my channel, and I really do appreciate it. It's been amazing to have all this happen, beyond my wildest dreams. But it does leave me wondering what to do about it, what to do for it, because I don't want to just leave you guys in the lurch. Now, I do not have a Patreon, and while I do have a Discord account, I created it years ago simply so I could be a substitute host in a Zelda randomizer tournament, and that wasn't even needed, so there you go. So, I don't have a Discord server. And to be honest, I am really bad, legitimately bad at making and building communities. I don't know what to do. And every time I've tried, and I've tried multiple times in the past, it has failed. Usually not spectacularly, because that requires something happen. Usually with the complete whimper. Nothing ever goes anywhere. So I'm kind of leery about trying to make a Discord server. I don't know if anybody would be interested. I don't know if I could even maintain it. I'd almost want to ask to, get a channel on someone else's Discord server, but that's a little presumptuous of me. Though speaking of Discord, I do see that I'm getting fairly regularly linked from a Discord server. So I would love to know who you guys are that are sharing my video. Maybe I can join you. That'd be cool. Now, as for the channel, due to the massive influx of the first video, I was able to sign up for YouTube Partnership, which means that I get a little bit, very tiny, fractional, little micron level of the amount of the money being earned by the ads that YouTube is always going to play my videos, even if I'm not partnered. And also partnering lets me at least disable mid-rolls and allow only skippable ads. Though apparently that option's going away, so yay YouTube. I have also turned on, the super chats and the channel membership. And much to my surprise, someone actually signed up. And I say much to my surprise in that I didn't even notice because I wasn't looking. I did not expect it. I give them a shout out, but their name's in Cyrillic. And, well, I only speak 2 languages, English and Bad English. So not going to be able to say the name. I apologize. But I will put it somewhere in the video because that seems like a reasonable thing to do if you're supporting me. As for languages, I am learning Japanese. I'm doing very bad at it. I really need someone to talk to actually talk. I think that'll help a lot. The actual alphabet and the alphabets, technically, and the actual sentence structure makes a lot of sense to me. I'm getting the hang of that really quickly. But, the vocab is the problem. I do have a goal. I am planning my next trip to Japan to coincide with the World's Fair in 2025. And for those of you in North America, yes, those actually still happen. So that's kind of the deadline. I need to have a reasonable level of being able to speak and read Japanese. We'll see if I can actually make it. I've been trying this for a lot longer than I like to admit. So if you want to help, feel free to volunteer there. I can appreciate that. Lastly, I'm not sure there's a lastly. I just want to say that you guys are amazing, that you're interested in this crazy project of mine. Has been a real driving factor, and it's actually pushed me to be more outgoing on this project than I think I ever really intended. I honestly didn't expect to get more than 2 videos done, not as many as this. I feel like I don't want to say I feel like I owe it to you, because I don't. I feel like you deserve it because you're supporting me, and I want to provide something for your support. But it obviously is, nothing is compelled. I'm just having a hard time trying to express the way I feel about it. I want to provide content for you guys because you're actually here to watch my content, and that blows my mind. Which is also, as I said, I have real shyness problems. That's the main reason why I've never been able to get any of the programming streams up and running that I keep trying to do. I just chicken out. One of these days, I'll actually get a programming stream going, and you can watch me program, and that'll be entertaining. I don't know when that will be. Hopefully soon. I keep saying it's going to be tomorrow, but I've been saying it's going to be tomorrow for quite a while now. So, well, tomorrow's always tomorrow, isn't it? I need to figure out how to make it today instead of tomorrow. Oh well. Now I am rambling because I have nothing else coherent to say. So, I guess, once again, just thank you for being here. Thank you for watching my content. Thank you for commenting and making so many nice statements. Oh, and I was asked what my favorite dinosaur is. It is probably going to be, a classic in the Triceratops. But it's one of the things I haven't thought about a lot since I was a kid, but I always liked that. Just like them and the way they look. So that was actually asked, so there you go. I think on that bombshell, to steal somebody else's line, I'm going to wrap this one up. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for sticking through my rambling Q&A. I hope you've learned something. Feel free to ask more questions. I can keep trying to add shorter versions of this in each video. We'll see what comes of it. Either way, thank you for watching, and you have a good day.